Recently, it feels like everyone that you know and their mothers and everyone I know and their mothers are playing a D&D based game that recently came out, and I totally would be too. If my laptop could run it! Sorry, lost the happy, but the happy's back! While Baldur's Gate 3 is something I've been waiting for a nice 23 years, I can't say that my experience with it has been anywhere close to optimal. Still, until I can upgrade my specs, I have something else that I've been waiting for coming out very soon. A game whose developer I've been following for, I believe, a year now. Daria Nogani, who's just released the demo for their recent game Small Saga, and if the name Nogani sounds familiar at all, then I can guarantee you that I know you played Sketchy Logic's Aviary Attorney. You can't hide from me! But that's not what we're here for today. Small Saga is something that I've been waiting for long and hard. I greedily consume updates on tweets, on Tumblr, and I've finally gotten the chance to feed the fires with gameplay and a release date. I've already clocked 6 hours into just the demo alone between 2 separate plays, and I would have clocked in more had a hospital visit not gotten in the way, and then crippling depression and layoffs and money problems. It's been a terrible year for me. That all being said though, I've played that demo twice now still, and I have fallen in love all over again. Turn-based games are my bread and butter, and it seems like Small Saga is shooting for a milestone leveling system along the lines of Chained Echoes or traditional Dungeons & Dragons milestone leveling, where accomplishments increase your skills. The combat is, as you'd imagine, snappy and methodical as is every turn-based game, but the action economy is simplified with a smaller energy point system for performing either basic attacks or more impressive special moves. It's very understated and reasonable in scope for gameplay, but to be honest, that's not breaking, new terrain for turn-based games. Where it becomes interesting, however, is the setting, because that's what's most important for these types of games, where story takes the forefront over gameplay. It's the summer, taking place in what we can only assume is modern-day London, England, or rather taking place beneath London. We see ourselves taking control of one Burm, a surly warrior mouse who's missing a tail with a morbid past. He wields what is called a god weapon, the name of which is the Titan Reaver. In actuality, it's just a simple pocket knife by our human standards, which becomes a monstrous greatsword in the deft hands of our protagonist. Now, I'm not the kind of person who writes and performs reviews for games, so if that's what you're here for, then I'm going to keep it simple for you. 10 out of 10, 100 out of 10. I love it. Based on what I've seen in this demo alone, there's a few things that do need a little bit of work, but they're all pretty small. Lighting errors and a few choppy visuals are all more than likely to be fixed up by November for the full release. That's whatever, we don't care about that. The combat is simple with damage types and weaknesses to abuse, and skill trees offer mildly unique customization options. It's all very, if you've played a turn-based game, you've played this. I'm not gonna tell you that this is going to be, the new wheel. I personally can't wait for November 16th to roll around to play the full ride, and I highly recommend you play the demo for yourself, but don't expect anything groundbreaking as far as the turn-based combat goes. But that is also not what we're here for! I am a person, nay, a player, who enjoys diving into characters, what they offer to the story, and how they play with each other in the larger narrative at hand. I believe that the story of Small Saga, at least the story that Small Saga is trying to tell just from the demo alone, is one that I think teaches a lot for players of tabletop games like D&D and Pathfinder. You see, I'm willing to bet that none of you knew that this was a D&D based channel originally. I am a huge D&D nerd. In the tabletop community, there is a specific archetype of player that we all have to deal with. The dark and broody lone wolf. It is a genuine challenge to get this kind of player to find a real reason to motivate team play. We often see this archetype stabbing their fellow players in the back, figuratively and sometimes literally, stealing from them or other NPCs without need or warning, and sometimes just because it's funny. Running off on their own for solo missions, and the list of dirty deeds done dirt cheap goes on from there. Many DMs myself included, unfortunately, will ban this type of player from their tables because they play like they're the only person at the table. So this video goes out to people who play like this. What if I told you that you didn't need to sacrifice your edge and your ruthlessness or the lone wolf behavior to play alongside your fellow players at the table? Now hear me out. The big draw to the lone wolf is competency and self-reliance, despite a dark past filled with strife and trauma, yes? That's the big power fantasy on display here most often. Small Saga actually does something really neat and makes this type of character the player's main character, Verm. However, Small Saga first makes us live through the traumatic backstory that makes him so jaded and bent on revenge. The game, or at least the demo, starts with a prologue where we're introduced to Verm and his older brother Lance as they are in search for a treasure trove left to them by their father. There are a few sewer rats that act as early encounters and help introduce a few concepts to us, really flesh out the world. But the thing that sticks out amongst what we're told is that there's a yellow god walking the halls above the sewer. This all just sounds like the necessary padding and exposition you'd normally get at any RPG or any tabletop. But when Verm and Lance follow the directions leading up, it all starts to make sense. This treasure trove left to them that they took the sewers to get to was a map leading to a convenience store. The convenience store is closed when they arrive, and they're mice. Vermin. You see what I'm getting at here? This yellow god can really only be... This is an absolutely breathtaking sequence, I will say right now, where we are introduced to the Yellow God in earnest, and we see Lance and Verm slowly realize that they're being poisoned, but they can't quite identify what that is. They quickly begin to escape before they are beset upon by the Yellow God himself. Verm makes the mistake, jumps over a mousetrap, gets his tail caught, and like I said before, he's missing his tail when we start to play him later in the game. Savvy players will know what's going to come next if this is our main character. He has to survive. We watch as Lance climbs atop the shelving units to get the Yellow God's attention in a absolutely chilling scene as he launches arrows at him and we see his head turn to face the camera. I felt genuine fear. And I'm pretty sure this isn't a horror game. Last I checked the Steam page, didn't see horror there. But who knows, maybe I'm wrong. As the last scene for Lance is him getting grabbed, we cut back to Verm as he is attacking the mousetrap that has him caught, only for his tin sword to snap in half, useless against this god machine. There's only one thing left to do. There's only one thing left to attack. 3 swipes is all it takes for Verm to deplete his health and slice off his tail. And even then, through despair and through adrenaline, through desperation, he still turns around to go back for his brother Lance is the only thing on his mind. And then... absolutely chilling. Circling back to Dungeons and Dragons, I want to talk about that type of character again and why it's so important what Verm does with Lance, and something that I do for players so that they can better familiarize themselves with each other before they start to play. to help foster team mechanics. You see, I draw my roots in tabletop RPGs from Dungeons & Dragons. It's where I spent most of my time studying. It's the game that I play the most with my friends. I believe that every player should have a reason to, not necessarily a reason, but a believable motive to work with each other. And to that end, I do a quick kind of session 0. I know that sounds dumb, like, Josh, of course session 0 is important. But instead of you all walk into a tavern, or you're all, on this quest together, you're all doing this, you're all doing that, I run a session 0 as kind of like a preliminary for characters' backstories. I believe that it's important for a character for a player to realize just what is important to their character, so that they understand what's important to the team as a whole, so that they can say, my character wants to do this, while your character wants to do that. That's fine, but if players don't see why their character wants to do this or wants to do that, what incentive do they have for their characters to help each other? That's why I like to have every player present and accounted for while I do a quick run through of what every player has gone through up to this point, and then I have them all interact with each other, introduce themselves, have them lay down their character's personality traits, their flaws, their interests, and then have it be over the table so every person at the table understands what the goal is before they get into it. Though their players don't, they understand, okay, that player, I said their players, though their characters don't, the players then understand that player's character wants to accomplish this task. So that means I have to now figure out a reason for my player, my character, to be interested in that task as well. The next time we see Verm, he is a fully grown mouse. The next season over, he has taken Titan Reaver for himself, and we see him cocky, abrasive, jaded. He walks up to a house cat, a hulking behemoth named Tiger, who speaks with his own font. That's so fucking hard, man. And he's just talking shit to him. Nevertheless, this is an unwinnable fight on your own. But Verm isn't left on his own for very much longer. You see, it is while knocked unconscious that Verm is dragged into the very place he came here to visit, Cranbale, the underground kingdom of knowledge, by our second party member, a mole by the name of Siobhan. It's there that we find out that this kingdom no longer subscribes to the same lofty ideals that it was formed upon, and they have been reduced to cowering away from Tiger, the same house cat that Verm lost to earlier. We also find out that it is against the rules, the very religious beliefs of these people who live below London, to fight against gods and their pets. Gods in this case being humans. Siobhan takes Verm aside and expresses her dissatisfaction with the council's choice, with her mother's choice for passivity. She tells him that she's begun collecting god tools, shows him a secret stash that she has tucked away, and reveals she even has a forbidden god weapon, a flamethrower that she has modified, which is actually just a lighter, with the hopes that she will one day be able to attack Tiger and defeat him, maybe even slay him. She invites Verm to helping her, and here we see Verm show that lone wolf archetype in earnest. He refuses initially, but this is the interesting part. Because we know, as players, that Siobhan is eventually going to be our sort of black mage, our spellcaster of sorts, we have to invite her into the party. She's going to come with us. That much we know is set in stone. But it's how Verm comes to the decision to let Siobhan stay that stands out. We see Verm have a minor episode of PTSD as he's about to leave Cranbale. His voices in his head are telling him that he is a coward, that he is running away again. A holdover of survivor's guilt for watching his brother die at the hands of the Yellow God, the Exterminator. This right here is a perfect example of what we as DMs need to do for this kind of player to help him realize that he's not the only person at the table. A simple nudge, a failed saving throw, say, hey, your character right now feels that in his head somewhere he has a feeling of inadequacy, he has a feeling that this is a challenge, he has a feeling that he's running away from whatever it is that has driven him to this point. Together, Verm and Siobhan both go out and defeat Tiger. They don't necessarily kill him, but in doing so, it proves to Verm that Siobhan has her mettle, that she is worth being around. And though he may not express it directly to her, he doesn't shoo her away, and in fact speaks to her defense later when they address the council and by proxy Siobhan's mother, and Verm is witness to Siobhan being exiled from her people, from her home. He understands that this is a vulnerable time for her, and though he can't express any kind of connective or relative emotion to her, he doesn't push her away when she insists on joining him to the next destination on his journey. Verm understands that she's in a vulnerable position right now, but he also understands that without her, he wouldn't have defeated Tiger on his own. She's a valuable member, if a bit naive and young, in his group, in his party. And that is what we as DMs can do for the lone wolf archetype, but it's also something that the lone wolf archetype needs to do for themselves. They can accept that they can't beat this game, they can't come to the end of their journey on their own, that they need help. Accepting that they need help is the most important step, and that is what Small Saga does perfectly. Now, I would love to go and talk about Small Saga and sing its praises, but the full game hasn't released yet. If you want to do me a favor and help me out, though, you can like and subscribe, and it would mean more than anything if you left a comment and said what you did or didn't enjoy about this video. I am always trying to get better as a writer, as an orator, as a storyteller, as a shill. So help me out! Anyway, I wish you all the best of luck with the rest of your day, and if you enjoyed the video, then breathe easy, and I'll catch you next time.